A few nights ago, I received the text message from Mr Palmer, which read, "Anyway, the candidate for Broadwater has been announced by the party and that's it." I asked Mr Palmer who this was, knowing some really interesting meeting had shown an interest in Broadwater. I was told it's his wife's brother. I was stunned. I've met him on occasions, as he is the Palmer Party's photographer. Nice, quiet fellow. He's never spoken with me about a desire to enter politics. Mr Palmer then went on to tell me that he'd sent a newsletter to the Broadwater electorate residents introducing his brother-in-law. This is the first I'd heard of it, and yet I'm supposed to be the Queensland Parliamentary PUP leader. The executive pre-selections rapidly progressed, with not only his brother-in-law being pre-selected, but also his son, his former footballer helper, his PUP senator's spouse, his electoral officer, his Titanic director, his two nephews, his close family friend, and his son. Goes on, his in-house solicitor, one of his staffers' husband, his cleaning contractor. This is all when PUP had genuine members willing to nominate for these Queensland seats. This has gone from the sublime to the ridiculous, where you've now got the executive director is using cronyism to appoint cronies as candidates, and that's wrong. It doesn't matter whether it's one person or 10 person. You start putting cronies on, there's a fundamental problem. Is he on the path to corruption? Anyone who doesn't believe in transparency, accountability with regards to pre-selections, and embraces a concept with getting their members to have a legitimate chance of running, and in contrast to a system where you have relatives and friends, staffers, all that stuff, that path will end in disaster or catastrophe every time.
Well, I don't do the pre-selections, but we've only had 4, and of course that's stuck with Dr. Douglas himself. No one actually stood against him. Senator Burley, Jim McAnally, Senator Merribar, Steve Anderson, and Carl Judge at Kelowna are the only 4 we've got. But, I mean, Alex Douglas wanted to have the veto over all the party's pre-selections with him and his wife, Susie Douglas. And, of course, we've got a constitution, we've got thousands of members throughout Queensland, and we stood against Newman having such rights and domination in the LNP, and that was against the party's philosophy. So that was the actual issue that Mr Douglas is talking about. But the real truth about it is, of course, 3 times now Alex Douglas has announced that we're merging with the Katter Party, only for me to have to retract it. And, of course, Alex is the nephew of Bob Katter, and there's a substantial conflict of interest there with his family. And, of course, I think that's the real reason that he wanted to put forward a lot of Katter Party candidates and to run under our banner, and we couldn't accept that. He's taken his marbles and gone home because he couldn't be a dictator.